Hey everybody, welcome to another EV news. I've broadened this video to go beyond just EVs. I'm not 100% happy with the name Sun, Wind, EVs and a little fire, but that's what it is for now. Um, and some of the things I'm going to talk about in this one, in summary, the Model S and Model X orders will not be fulfilled in Australia or other right-hand drive countries. So I've got a little bit of news about that. Um, Kia is going to build some EVs in Mexico in the same region as Tesla. There's a couple of stories about tires for EVs. I think this is important in three different aspects. The need to cope with the additional weight. EVs are heavier. Um, and they're relatively quiet. So the tires need to be relatively quiet as well. And we want efficiency out of our tires. So having a low rolling resistance is important. NRMA has given some more details on the additional 117 charging locations that they're working on with the government. The global EV outlook was published, and I wanted to include some details on that one. And I've put a link to that article where you can get it in the description. And I've added some things about electric trucks and buses into this video just to extend it beyond just cars. And I also highlight a little bit about battery and wind news just to add a little bit more into the mix. Okay, so as I said, S and X's are not coming to Australia, thanks to Which Car for where I've got this summary. People that had been holding those for a long time, their orders, they got their money back and they've been given the possibility of a $3,000 credit towards ordering a Model 3 or Model Y. Kia is going to build some production lines in Mexico in the same area that Tesla's building theirs in Nuevo Leon, I guess is how you pronounce it. The initial stories said they were going to build their own plant, but Kia's clarified uh, that on the 16th of the month, that what they're actually doing is dedicating a couple of the existing lines to produce EVs. So slightly different from the story. Now, the first of those tires is a Bridgestone tire that's specifically optimized for Teslas and the Mustang Mach-E if it ever comes to Australia. I am imagining these tires will be pretty expensive, but they should optimize the experience when it's time to update your tires. And a greener tires come from Goodyear that's for Model 3s. And I guess it'll work for Model Ys and some others. And it's produced without using carbon um, or fossil fuels in the production of the tire, which seems like a good idea. NRMA has clarified a few things around the charges they're going to roll out. So let's talk about them as locations, 117 locations. And they've basically indicated that there'll be 4 bays, but that's not clear because some of the existing NRMA chargers have 2 bays, one for one kind of plug and the other for another kind of plug. So it's not clear whether there'll be 2 stations with 4 bays or whether there'll be 4 stations. They've also indicated that they're going to be getting their charges from Tritium, ABB, and ChemPower. So that adds a little bit of clarity to what will be coming when people plug in. The global EV outlook comes out once a year and it's reviewed by people all around the world. I think 40% of cars, all new cars, were electric in 2022. China was 29%, Europe was 21%. Um, in Europe, it varied widely from 88% in Norway to France at 21%. And a few countries have actually gone down. The most notable of those was Italy. The US managed 8% and Australia trailed at 3.8. But in the first couple of months of this year, In the first 4 months, Australia has gone from 3.8 to 6.8. The global numbers also indicated a decline in plug-in hybrid vehicles, and these figures don't include hybrids at all. So on the next page, there's a chart that shows a little bit of what's happening in Australia. And so that's the growth, and we expect that to continue to grow in 2023 along that same kind of trajectory. Okay, so in terms of market trends, there's a larger range of vehicles becoming available and a general reduction in prices. I think Tesla did a fairly significant price reduction in January, and that's certainly contributed to the reduction in prices. And also vehicles from China, such as BYD and MG, are also helping to reduce selling prices as they ship in cheaper vehicles. And I guess a good thing is that EV fleet of vehicles will reduce petroleum imports, and that's got to be a good thing for Australia. We're not spending quite so much money on petroleum, especially if our electricity is increasingly built produced with electricity in solar and wind. Australia is a major producer of battery materials and has ambitions to be more. There are government incentives to help us grow that business as well, which is interesting. I covered a fair bit in the last two slides of this screen. Uh, Interestingly, there were more SUVs sold so far this year than passenger vehicles, and that was quite a surprise to me. I didn't think that was the case. In a subsequent video, I'm going to just go through the first 4 months worth of sales and identify by brand and by the kind of vehicle. Um, One of the growth areas I think should be in the area of vans and utes, and at the moment there's not a lot of option for us. The LDV ET60 sold a grand total of 10 so far in 2023, so I expect that to grow as time goes on, and there'll be some more options coming through. When thinking about other vehicles, I think about trucks and buses, and so over the next few pages, I haven't done this before in any of the videos. I'm going to show you what was on show at the Brisbane Truck Show, and I'll have a link to that URL in the description of the video so that you can have a look. I live in the inner west of Sydney, and I catch the 470 line into the city, and there's some electric buses on that line. So I'll show you a picture of that as well. So here's the first, the Mercedes-Benz. Generally speaking, there's some hesitance in my mind, at least, that even that motor vehicles and cars should be powered by hydrogen. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Toyota has a Mirai or some name like that, and I think they haven't sold any this year, and they sold one or two last year. It doesn't seem to make sense for a smaller vehicle. However, when you come up to trucks, it makes a lot. It's a much better story. They're faster to load and more efficient in terms of weight. And there's a couple of options around how that's done. Mercedes has 4 test vehicles here being trialed at the moment, and they're the battery versions. But also, you'll see that picture on the right there. That's a picture of a hydrogen-powered vehicle that Mercedes is looking at the moment. The next one, I guess, is DAF. And DAF has a similar kind of idea. They've got some electric vehicles. These yellows are examples, but they also have a hydrogen-powered technology. But DAF's taken a different route, whereas the Mercedes on the last page was a fuel cell. DAF is actually having an internal combustion engine that runs on hydrogen. And so it's a very different approach. Their thinking is that it means that the vehicles are lighter because they don't have to have the battery and therefore can be more efficient. In North America, DAF's sibling is Kenworth, been around for many, many, many years, owned by PACCAR, P-A-C-C-A-R, and they've trialed a hydrogen fuel cell, and that's what they'll be using in their vehicles. There was one on show up in Brisbane, but I'm not sure they're available here to be purchased. Now, for an Australian company, SEA Electric is making Australian-made vehicles, and ironically, here's a picture of one of them um, carting fuel for airplanes. So it kind of seems a little ironic, I guess, in my head at least. Volvo has a couple of vehicles for sale here, and was also demonstrating. They look like nice vehicles to me from that image, and they should have plans to build the trucks here in Australia by 2025, which will be kind of nice as well. Okay, the next one, a really nice looking vehicle. This is Australian made as well. It's called an HDrive, and it's a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. And they've got ambitions to make this possibly sold overseas as well. So again, that's a great thing. Our country needs more manufacturing and more exports. So it's a good thing. Hyundai's gone down the path of building electric vehicles that are basically for the last mile delivery. And I like the additional state safety features in this one. Um, you know, forward collision avoidance, lane departure warning, and stability control are all important things to make those vehicles safer. And I think large vehicles are overrepresented in accidents, and so anything like that is a great thing. Another Australian company, Hyzon, I guess is how you pronounce it, has built a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. And they're hoping to adapt that for international markets. And they're looking for a multitude of use cases like garbage compactors and tilt trays and so on. So again, a very positive look. Okay, that's a 470 bus that I often take into the city. It's at the Leichhardt bus depot. It's been electrified, and I guess it was a test. They have 55 of those buses, so there must be other routes on top of the 470. There's on-site battery and charging infrastructure there, and the government's planning in 2023 to begin the process of electrifying 11 other bus depots, and also adding a new one out in Macquarie Park, and that will result in 1,200 electric buses by 2028. Um, Now, to add more vehicles into the country, or electric vehicles into the country, we need more power to be generated for them to charge them, and especially as our old and failing coal power stations get turned off, we need to have more electricity generated and stored. So the first thing I want to do is look at batteries. A couple of new announcements on batteries. Western Australia is going to provide funding for a very large battery in a place called Collie, which is an old coal centre. And New South Wales government's just given final approvals for the Waratah super battery, which will be the largest in the Southern Hemisphere for the time being. It's hard to keep up with that because it keeps changing. The batteries can be built very quickly. So here's a map of where those batteries are. I'd just like to say thanks to Renew Economy, because I've grabbed that map from there, and there'll be a link to Renew Economy in the description. And this one I'm showing what's operating and what's in construction now. So you can see there's quite a few sites across Australia. If I'd added in announced as well, it gets almost overwhelming with the number of batteries in the area. And finally, I just wanted to show the same kind of thing. This is just operating for wind-powered generators. There's an awful lot of those. The bigger they are in the image, the more power is being generated. So, for example, you can see one up in Queensland that's quite enormous for its amount of generation. So that brings me to the end of this video. I just wanted to say thank you. And if you get a chance, please subscribe. If you've liked this, please like it and maybe make a comment to let me know what else you'd like to see in the future. Thank you.